Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's 9 o'clock in the evening. Here are the headlines of our news from Djibouti channels. President Gele take part for the 33 IGAD summit in Addis Ababa, capital of Ethiopia. More than 100,000 students have returned to school this morning. On continental news, the capital of Zimbabwe is facing a cholera epidemic. That were our top stories, and now let's get to the details. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Omar Gele, sent yesterday a message of congratulations to the President of the Democratic and Federal Republic of Ethiopia, Mr. Mulatu Teshome, whose country celebrates the Enkutasha celebration, marking the passage from year to year in the Ethiopian calendar. In his message, the President of the Republic wishes health and happiness to President Mulatu Teshome, as well as more progress, prosperity and fulfillment to the people, brothers and friends of Ethiopia. I hope that this new year will come with a lot of opportunities and to strengthen Ethiopian development and influence, President Gele wrote. This is no doubt that the celebration of this event is not addition to the number of acts and events recently initiated in your country, which all militate in the direction of strengthening the important notion of cohesion and solidarity within the country of your nation, said the Djiboutian head of state before reiterating his good holidays greeting to President Mulatu and the whole of the people, brother and friend of Ethiopia. It should be noted that a similar message was also sent to the Ethiopian Prime Minister, His Excellency Abiy Ahmed Ali. The 33 sessions of IGAD Forum are held in Addis Ababa, capital of Ethiopia right now, which the President, Mr. Ismail Omar Gele, takes part. We will come in details in the next edition. The President His Excellency Mr. Ismail Omar Gele leave early in this afternoon the country to go to the capital of Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, to take part in the work of 33 extraordinary summit of IGAD. On this new IGAD summit on South Sudan is dedicated to the finalizations of the comprehensive peace agreement that took place on August in Khartoum between the main protagonists of the southern Sudanese crisis, among which the government side represented by President Salva Kiir and the leader of the most important rebellion in this country, Mr. Riek Machar. The Sudanese agreement in Khartoum was limited to marking the principle of peace intent, which was now subscribed to by all warring parties in the southern Sudan crisis, and that respect remain an incomplete agreement. To become exhaustive, it will have to be supplemented by precise and detailed clause on a certain number of subjects fundamental to the establishment agreed of a government of national union of that country, the modalities of power sharing, the adoptions of consensus of the extent of each region on South Sudan in the context of redefinitions of this country into a federal state, and provisions to be taken into account in order to provide the South Sudan an inclusive armed force and representative of all of its ethnic components are among the sensitive topics not yet definitely decided. This is why the whole purpose of the IGAD summit of September 12, 2018 is to carry out substantive mediations on all these subjects. In addition to peace in South Sudan, the IGAD summit will also mark the return of Eritrea to the regional organizations. More than 100,000 students have resumed basic education this morning, took the path to school on the whole national territory. The start of the school year 2018-19. This is normally done in all the schools, where the children will welcomed in the classroom by their teachers, and that in the most remote regions. total of 253 public and private institutions that opened this morning across the country. The total number of new enrollments in the first year of 2018 students this year, an increase of 1% compared to the last year. The number of girls among the new is 6,500 is 48% of new enrollment. The start of the school year 2017-18 had the particularly of the entire into force of the wearing of this uniform that significantly increased the initial joy of the school year. Indeed, the new year it was a world of children in the same color, blue and black, boys as girls. As usual, the Minister of National Education, Mr. Mustafa Mohammed Mahmoud, accompanied by a large delegation to conduct a supervision tour of the course of the new school year 2018-19 from the school of Anglais to the College of Bil'aus through the schools next one, Belbela 2, as well as the College of Hodan 1. The ministerial delegation received a solemn receptions at each stage of its tours. Upon arrival, the minister was received by the students' parents committee. For their part, teachers line up their students in front of their classroom to greet the flag and sing the national anthem. Moment of extreme solemnity and communion among this beautiful education community. The Minister of National Education and Vocational Training, Mr. Mustafa Mohammed Mahmoud, visiting the classroom in his tour and talking with the parents of the students, the teacher about the course of the school. Long moment of sharing on the introduction of wearing the uniform that makes the joy of parents and children, but also on the educational device set up to succeed the school year. In addition, life in school activities as introduced in the framing letter sent to school officials. Regarding the terminations of DCT concessions contract, the Inspector General of the State, Mr. Hassan Issa Sultan, granted an interview to a team of the radio television of Djibouti. In this interview, Mr. Hassan Issa explained why the Republic of Djibouti ended the contract linking Djibouti to DP World. The continuations of this contract was a serious prejudice to the imperatives of development of our country and the control of its most strategic infrastructure. He said on 9th September last, the government decided to nationalize the share held by the company which has the concessions of the harbour container of Dorale. This company exists legally, but today, it does not have the power on the port, and this company appears to shareholders. One is the Port of Djibouti and the others is DP World. On one statement, the Inspector General talked about why the government announced the nationalizations of port actions for the sole purpose of preserving the fundamental interest of the nation. After the government initiated several attempts to renegotiate the concessions with DP World, the government has made many attempts to find a solution to this dispute with this company, because the government wanted to change the contract that's in place and that does not serve the interests of the country, and the society did not want to negotiate this contract. Of this reason, they lost the Dorale container port concessions. After accomplishing the fifth pillar of the Islamic religions, the first Djiboutian pilgrims rode the soul of the country were happy, informed, and satisfied to have done the duty. At the bottom of the bridge of the plane that brought them to the country, the first Djiboutian pilgrims were welcomed by the Minister of Culture and Muslim Affairs, and Property Works, Mr. Hassan Barre, with his colleagues in government, including the Minister of the Budget, Mr. Bodi Ahmed, and the Higher Education and Research. One fund report Djiboutian pilgrims had to complete the procedure with the order police. The Djiboutian pilgrims say they were very satisfied to have returned to their country and after completing the fifth pillar of Islam. The Djiboutian pilgrims also say that everything was well prepared of these pilgrims to take place in good conditions. The Minister of Culture of Muslims Affairs, Mr. Hassan Barre, Property, has granted us an interview in which he said he was very satisfied with the return of the first contingent of Djiboutian pilgrims who returned safe and sound. Very happy he continued to have completely the fifth pillar of Islam, said the Minister of Islam and Culture. The minister continued his remarks, added that the second plane will convey tonight the second contingent of Djibouti pilgrims. To close the chapter of national news, we have these photographs. But now let's move on continental news. The capital of Zimbabwe facing a cholera epidemic. For more details, let's follow this report.
With Health Minister Obadiah Moyo on Tuesday declared a cholera outbreak in the capital Harare after 20 died from the disease and more than 2,000 people were infected after drinking contaminated water. Harare City Council has struggled to supply water to some suburbs for more than a decade, forcing residents to rely on water from open wells and community boreholes. The latest cholera outbreak came after poor sewage in Buduriro and Clefio suburb contaminated water in boreholes and open wells which are used by residents. Moyo, who was flanked by Harare's new mayor and other health officials.
Here we arrive at the end of this news edition. Thank you for watching us. Goodbye.